Coming up, a brand new episode of Cornerstone Advisors Plugged In with a superstar CEO. And if you can see in the background, a book lover like my friend Steve Williams.
Love books.
No, doesn't hate them. We found that out. But Steve, I'm at my kind of home away from home, but this is where you lock it down on a fairly regular basis. So I feel it's only appropriate for you to introduce our guest today. You want to say hello to April?
April, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, I think for folks over in the credit union industry, they know someone who has seen a remarkable story of growth, but more than just growth, innovation and taking risk and trying new things. So we have the CEO of Michigan State University, Go Spartans, Federal Credit Union, April Clobes. So welcome.
Hello. How are you all?
We are going to have some fun. We are going to have some fun with this episode, I believe.
I hope so.
Right. This is someone, April, I want to get the right asset size when you were named CEO.
It was about $2.5 billion.
$2.5 billion, and now knocking on the door of 10, around $8 billion now, and growing, and a lot of great things going on. So we want to kind of dig into this growth story, but also kind of a leadership story. How are you doing so many things at once? How do you keep your team aligned? Yeah. I think any organization, bank, credit union, fintech would be interested in this.
Yeah, and if you're a Gonzo Banker Award reader, you will recognize both the business that April runs and April's name because we've recognized her and the team for some really exceptional things over the last few years. So
yeah, two Gonzo Awards, one for strategy this year and one related to a very cool innovation related to financial health and behavioral science. So I encourage you guys to read the Gonzo Awards.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Shameless plug right there for Cornerstone. But you know what? Let's just dive right in like we always do on Plugged In. So we've got 5 different songs that Steve and I creatively agreed to.
Curated.
About 20 seconds before we hopped on with April, that we thought would be a really wonderful way to juxtapose our business conversation with some kind of pop culture references. Nice. So, we talk about a lot of things at Plugged In, but really we want to start by focusing on the state of Michigan. It's been in the news over the last few days, thanks to a different school's football team that we won't talk about.
Yeah.
But the state of Michigan ranks 49th in overall population growth since 1990. So when you think about where people are moving to, the state of Michigan doesn't normally come up in conversation as 1, 2, or 3. But what's interesting is the credit union that April runs has seen an increase in its member base of about 40% over the last 5 years.
40,
right.
In a no to slow growth state.
So that's pretty impressive. So if we were to use a song, I think we've got to use Irene Cara's Flashdance, because what a feeling it must be to see that type of number associated with the business that you're running. So could you talk a little bit about the proverbial secret sauce?
Yeah, what's the secret sauce? How do you? People often blame their market. I could grow; it's just my market. You took a market and grew substantially more than other credit unions or banks in growth markets.
Well, okay. So one, I have to admit, not only do I love books, but I love music. So I can't wait for the song unveiling at every moment. So that's going to be fun for me. But I think I know that Michigan is declining in population. In fact, a headline that's been in Cranes, Detroit in the last 2 days is U-Haul, Michigan ranks 49th on the states of one way out. So we have the highest out, we're numbered, I think the second highest state with, going out traffic for movement. So a couple of things for us that I think is important. So one, I don't look at our region actually is not shrinking. So where we are centrally located, which has a university, the state capital, and has a really unique opportunity to attract startup businesses. We have legacy GM plants in our market that are, now attracting suppliers and EV batteries and stuff. So we actually see our region a little bit of growth, but I think our growth is coming from, we do have a great field of membership where we get a renewing incoming opportunity every year. And so for me, like Michigan State admits 9,000 students every year. That's 9,000 new people that we can attract. They have new faculty coming. They, alumni stay with us when they leave the state of Michigan. And then we also serve Oakland University in the Metro Detroit area, and they have the same, experience with new students coming, and we are their institutions. So we have an opportunity to grow in that capacity. We've done unique things to try to capture other segments of the market, I guess, as well.
Yeah, but I think you must be retaining a lot of that university traffic because other credit unions or banks, they get the students and then the students leave. But are you retaining a pretty good amount of those?
Yes. So we track, the first year, 95%, of course, right? Like I'm staying and I'm going to college still. But by about 5 years post-graduation, we are over 75, 80%. 10 years out, it gets a little closer to 60, 50%. But when we track that to the rest of the membership that is not student focused, the numbers are 5 to 10% higher than the average membership, right? And so
Awesome.
I do think there's some marketing, involved in that, right? You're loyal to your first card, you're loyal to your first institution, and we get the benefit of that when we are the first place that I have my adult grown-up account, and that benefits it. And we have an affiliation. So I know you mentioned maybe there's another institution to go to college in the state of Michigan, but if you have a lot of affiliation to where you went to college as an undergrad. And so our credit cards, frankly have an MSU
Right.
logo on them. They have the Spartan helmet on it. So people want to carry that. They want to have that pride and that affiliation. And so I think it stays with them and they stay with us longer.
Now, April mentioned the word marketing, and the trivia I have for you is April came up through the marketing side of the house, and I asked you what kind of song could we apply to that, and you had a great one. So, song number 2, April.
Well, you got to take me where the future's lying with St. Elmo's Fire.
We're
Right.
taking you way back.
It's good I am
Steve
like
and I, Steve and I
Where
will
the
do this.
future's light, St. Elmo's fire.
That's
Remember that
good.
one?
I like the singing.
Can we harmonize next time you do this? Give me a little warning so that we can, actually get the duo up and rolling.
I love it so much. I'm a product of the 80s music, so you can keep it going.
But like all your kidding though, I have a marketing background. I think most people aspire to understand how to position and to differentiate your business, and it doesn't happen because you have a slick green, logo on your credit card, right? So the marketing function itself has been reinvented and continues to be reinvented. And I think, your perspective is really appropriate for a lot of the listeners to, better understand, because the business of banking, it needs some sexiness, it needs some flavor and personality. And, if you're able to resonate with a very young crowd, there's got to be some hooks that you start to get proud about as a marketer.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So we're doing a few unique things. I would say my philosophy as a marketer, right, is when we do engagement, what are all the ways that we can do it, right? Like somebody can say, so this is my favorite example in the last week, right? We have a local pizza place and they make very unique pizza. And so we are the sponsor of the green and white pizza. And what that is pickles on pizza, right? But it is, if you come to Michigan State, right, young people,
Spartan
that's the
colors.
pizza they're going to buy because it's the green and white pizza. But it is named for us. So we can just pay for the naming, but we don't. We do coupons to members. We get to sponsor their buy one, get one half off day. They do pizza making classes for young people that, all of that is kind of under this sponsorship. So we try to do, I would say, multi-level engagement at all times. It's not just mass marketing. It's how do I get to a one-on-one with our members? But ways that we're doing unique marketing, we definitely are spending time in the brand influencer space we're doing name, image, likeness with the MSU women's basketball team. They do a lot of social media posts for us. They engage with us. They come to events and programs. And the other thing that's engaging for young people is really connected to philanthropy, to social support causes. And so what we did this year for our new student promotions, why would you get an account at the credit union? And we did for all the students who opened an account, we made a $5 donation to a charity. And then everyone that opened the account got to select, and do a popular vote on which charity that we sent those funds to. And that we sent, a nice check of almost $20,000 to the Student Food Bank. And, that's part of, understanding different generations and what they value and how to speak to the values that align together. And as a credit union, of course, we have great philanthropy, community giving values, and that resonates with our young people for sure.
Yeah. April, you talk about the NIL stuff. I'm curious. I had a conversation with a bank CEO on the East Coast who has a Clemson football player, kind of as their brand ambassador. And I had asked him, how did they vet the relationship? And it essentially became a personal one where the CEO had a family relationship with this player's parents. So they felt comfortable with the reputation risk that was associated with, bringing somebody in like this. How did you think about that Michigan State women's basketball team for that NIL deal? I mean, there has to be some type of internal control that allows you to feel comfortable saying, we're going to put our name and likeness against theirs, not just theirs against ours.
As a marketer in my life, I've always hesitated to do what I would call, a human attached to your brand, because humans can make mistakes, and then depending on how significant that is attached to you. We've all seen those brand.
Hello, Elon. Yeah. Hello, Elon.
Yeah, right. And so what we worked on were a few things. First, we selected the women's sports in basketball, right? So one, we wanted to do maybe something that isn't as popular, right? Everyone wants to get the star quarterback and to promote their brand. Therefore, those players also become too expensive even though we're a larger institution, I can't compete with some of the contracts that are being offered today for really high-level football players or basketball players. And then when we first started this, very few people were focused on women athletes. And so that became an area where we could make a difference and also give parity and equity to women in sports. Because, and in this case, I had a personal relationship through the years of just being at MSU together with the women's basketball coach. And so I knew how important it would be for her team to have the same access and opportunity as the football team. And so we went down the path with the women's team. First of all, it's a small team. So, a football team is 100 and some players. Basketball teams are 15. So it was, A, we could afford it. B, we knew the players, in a different level. C, we did a contract and we did meetings with the students and we walked through line by line what the expectations were, when they would or would not get paid, if they did anything reputational that would violate the contract, then it would be terminated. A lot of making sure that the students really understood the relationship and the legal relationship they were entering into with us. But the players have embraced it. They're really supportive. We were at the women's game last night. I mean, they come up and give us hugs. Some people who have graduated in the last year still text me, they're playing in other countries and, sending me holiday messages. And you do form a relationship. It's like all things in life, right? So they know me, I go to the meetings. And so they know that I know who they are. And I think it just is one more level of accountability, probably like, knowing the family, I guess.
Right. Well, what's cool is you say that. I love that you identified an underserved part of the community and were able to step in. But I also have to imagine you've been patient to see that program really develop over time. I think sometimes we, as consumers, as people who love brands, want the immediate gratification and the satisfaction of saying, I put some money in and this is what I get out of it. I think taking the longer view where you can say, I actually have a relationship that's both personal and professional, lends itself to something far more sustainable that
Yeah.
people will realize is authentic as opposed to just transactional.
Right.
Well,
Very
in
true.
our case, right, a lot of the players are in their third and fourth year at school, and so they know us, and so they also rely on this relationship, and they want to make sure that they do a good job. So we renew every year with them, and they see the value for themselves after being paid for the year, right? And so they want to be successful also.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
Now, Steve, you and I grew up in the wrong time because some of this NIL money, if you start reading about Big Ten football teams, we'll take Michigan State out of this, but like Nebraska,
Right.
they're buying quarterbacks that are 5 stars for a few million. They're
Yeah.
getting their offensive line all, tricked out in
They're
big
competing
pickup trucks.
with NFL now. So if I'm a junior, I make more money as a senior.
Are there NIL deals at Cornerstone? How do I get into
There
this
are no
thing?
NIL deals.
Okay, well, sadly, we're going to have to find some other things to talk about than sports
Well,
these days.
I want to take one, and that is that the business model of banking and credit unions, and want to note something that I've seen firsthand that Michigan State University FCU has done, and that is build what's called a CUSO, a subsidiary essentially called the Reseda Group. And as you know, when you hit 10 billion, there's a little bit of a haircut called "Thank You, Dick Durbin." And this
Another Gonzo Award
Yeah.
loser,
Loser
not
this
winner
year.
this time, loser, but
But the idea was, how do we build a revenue stream that we're going to lose? And April and team built something called a Reseda Group. Does all kinds of services, marketing, print, other things to build non-interest income, but also to sell services to other financial institutions. So, what's the state? I one thing I'd give you, April. It's been pretty loud out there. You haven't been a quiet Reseda Group out there. But how is it going selling services and growing a different kind of business than a mortgage loan or a checking account?
Yeah. Well, it definitely is a different business. And so, what I tell everybody is we segregated and created like the holding company CUSO. So all CUSO activities and fintech investments go into that because it is a separate focus from your credit union day to day. I have a great human that I think you've recognized, Ben Maxim, as well, and he's our chief operating officer. And so Ben is responsible for what is created out of Reseda. So we have a couple of different arms of Reseda. One is we've invested in some technology, and we're a minority investor. Then we have either acquired or created software and digital technology that we produce and sell, and that's what Ben is the COO over Reseda Products. And then we have acquired, as you noted, a printing company and an ad agency. And so together, when we look at our financials, the value of that portfolio consolidates out to be about $6 million a year. And that's a variety of all of that coming together, right? So earnings on selling products, earnings from the printing and the ad agency from their revenue, but also from our usage that we were already using them, consolidating that in the accounting. And then we've had, an investment or two that has benefited us financially from one sale, and others that are producing revenue to us every year. And so the goal was within 5 years that we may be able to, replace about a third, which is almost where we are right now, of the revenue we might lose from the Durbin transition for our debit interchange revenue. So we're projecting about a $17 million loss in revenue based on today. And, so a $5 to $8 million would be really helpful when that happens.
I just love the Midwest sensibility that April's modeling right now. You're just like very matter of fact. Oh, we've got a printing agency, we've got an ad agency.
Right.
We do have
I love the delivery because it's like these things don't just happen. In creating business that has real reputational value and can also deliver,
right.
It takes time and effort. Again, I use that word patience. Like everyone wants to have the immediate gratification, but to build something that is durable, it takes leadership and it takes a vision.
And you had the song "Safe and Sound" by Capital Cities.
Well, there's a lyric that says, "I can show you what you want to see and take you where you want to be. I can lift you up." So I feel like
the
that's
proactive nature of getting ahead of the Durbin Act
Look,
before you.
sometimes I feel like we've not met our calling. We could have been old school college DJs up in Michigan. We could have gotten, maybe a green pizza sent to us.
Yeah.
Speaking of
the
old
student
school,
radio station here is amazing. So
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, never mind. I guess we don't have a job opportunity
No,
up
you
there.
could like have been on the student radio station. I used to love it. It's
Well,
called
let's
The
talk.
Impact.
If we're talking college, like let's just bring it. Let's just bring it.
Let's talk college.
Which one would you like to think of?
Well, as you know, Michigan State Credit Union also launched 2 digital banks in the last year. Digital banks, one alumni and one campus. These are digital banks designed to be partners to colleges and obviously to provide digital banking to colleges for alumni. So you have a great song here.
Well, no, do you have some the background music? I think has to be from Animal House.
Right. We think the theme from Animal House.
Right. I think that's appropriate because well, what is it? Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. I'm going to try to not, quote movie lines right now.
I love this so
but
much.
I am going to ask, you've got these 2, digital brands. Like, take us out maybe 3 to 5 years. What does success look like in your mind for those 2 independent entities?
So they are a little less independent from each other than we intended. I see them now working together. So what we have is Collegiate was created. So we obviously serve Michigan State, and then we serve another brand and a trade name called Oakland University, and we run OU Credit Union out of that. And it came from other schools at a smaller, enrollment size wanting to partner with us. And just the economics and the efficiency of creating 10 small brands and having the employees answer the phone with 10 different brand names didn't seem like a sustainable model. So we thought, well, we'll come up with Collegiate, which can then be customized. It could be Collegiate at Olivet University, Collegiate at Alma University, things along that line. That could then we could buy mass amount of, debit cards for Collegiate and not, 50 per college. And so that's where Collegiate came from. But then as we really started working, we were going to just promote Alumnify differently. And now the universities are like, but once I graduate, I don't want to be in Collegiate. I want the Alumnify. So now we kind of pair them together as, this is your solution based upon where you are, point in time in life. You're either in college, Collegiate, you're out of college, here's Alumnify for you. And so we have one signed institution right now, which is Olivet University, and then we have 4 others in contract stages right now. And so I would say in the 3 to 5 year, I'd like to have about 15 universities on that brand, and with their enrollment size, probably about 10,000 total members. It's not going to be significant in terms of, competing with our main branded institution, but I can see where we wouldn't have been able to attract people because MSU in our name is somewhat prohibitive based on maybe where you went to university. And so this is for us an opportunity to appeal to, you could have gone to any university and you like what we offer, and we'll have that.
So it's interesting listening to April. It reminds me of a conversation we had with Kevin Blear, the CEO of Synovus, a few months ago on this show, talking about why they started MAST, which is Money as a Service, as an acronym. Same, basic idea, which is not to compete with the main brand or the main business, but it was to explore new delivery channels and new opportunities to engage in ways that were creative.
Right.
Now I'm bringing up banks and credit unions, so we probably have to clear our throat and think about Times Woman of the Year.
We don't dance around things at Plugged In, so right?
I like to dance around things. When I put a little Bad Blood on, because baby, now we got some bad blood.
We did Taylor Swift Bad Blood because we know that it's not always
so
the easiest conversation.
Banks and credit unions aren't always simpatico when it comes to certain conversations, but we're starting to notice that some credit unions are acquiring banks, and I think my math and my research is correct in thinking that your credit union has acquired a few. So Steve and I just want to kind of talk a little bit about credit unions buying banks and the business case that you see, and conversely, the ones that banks acknowledge when they get into a conversation with you.
what you saw in the value and what the bank's selling to you, because they obviously it wasn't bad blood when the bank said we will gladly sell to you. So tell us about kind of what the exchange looks like.
Well, a couple of things. So I have a philosophy of the bad blood concept is an advocacy group is how they approach it. It's necessarily when you talk to individuals at banks and you talk to individuals at credit unions, I don't think that we have as much bad blood when we have a conversation as is hyped, right? A community bank is very similar to a credit union. They're smaller. They have a community service focus. They are competing against the big five banks, just like we are. And I think when they're looking for merger partners, they have a couple of options. And if they choose a larger banking institution, what generally happens, right? If they merge into a Chase doesn't need another 2 branches in that town. They just won't have those branches and they won't need their employees, and they're just going in now deposit gathering. And so I think the appeal for credit unions is that as an industry, we weren't as large as the banking industry. We don't have as many branches. This is a way credit unions can grow into communities with established brand footprint, locations, staff, and membership, right? And so I think it's important that there's alignment, right? And so the community banks are looking to make sure that their community continues to be served, their branches exist, and their employees have a job. It sounds just like a credit union merger to me. And, the only differences is generally there's no conversation about board seats. There's very little conversation about, executives, because they usually are shareholders and they're not looking to stay either. And so then you're really looking at we're receiving the assets of the institution and and their customer base to become our members and their employees. And some of the maybe more challenging conversations in mergers are kind of off the table. And that's been nice for us. And then I think there's just not as many credit unions to, partner with. And I am not a fan of knocking on doors and asking people, would you like us to merge you in because you may be more challenged at your size? I don't like to do that. I want to see the industry survive and thrive. But banks are asking to be purchased, right? It's a whole different experience.
Yeah. The attorney who said that, one bank owner was like, I've made enough money. What I care about now is community and my employees. Yeah. And so I do think this is going to be interesting to see as an option for especially the privately held family banks and what they want to do with an asset when they kind of feel like I've got enough money at this point.
Well, it's a great point because we know that banks aren't bought, they're really sold. I mean, this is one of those adages that makes its rounds at many banking conferences, but that idea that there's some privately held, family-owned, organizations and institutions that need a dance partner, and they're not going to attract, leave Chase out of it. They're not going to attract a regional or even a larger community bank. So, finding a way to continue to serve their communities, I think there is, some really interesting conversations that probably are going to continue to take place because we know on the bank side, there's a lot of pent up demand to see acquisitions start to, be announced. We think there's some things percolating right under the surface. So we'll probably be talking about smarter banks getting opportunistic in that sense. But
and to kind of close with music, I kind of see these banks, family owned banks, it's kind of like Springsteen and Sting's music rights. They may want to monetize this asset while the capital gains are where they are. And I think that there's always that fear of what if you double the capital gains tax rate? And Bruce Springsteen may sing against the man, but he also reduces his taxes through music sales. And I think that's going on in the family banking business too.
We did warn April when she accepted this invitation to join us on Plugged In that we were going to give her a little music reference. I promised 5. Steve just gave a bonus 6. So everyone who's listening in, consider yourself lucky. 6 songs, 1 great conversation. He's Steve Williams. I'm Al Dominic, and we really appreciate everyone getting plugged in with Cornerstone Advisors on this very special episode.
Thanks, April. Great to see you.
Thank you both.